house has gone down, here in Ocala, it's gone down 40%. My house in Ocala has gone down at least 40%, and I understand that. Fortunately, it's paid off. If it wasn't paid off, I'd probably have a mortgage higher than the value of the house. All the brokerage firms are given in some kind of program to help mortgage holders and to try and create incentives for them so that if they're in a foreclosure or they're in some type of refinance, that the money would give them, the banks to give them incentives to refinance, to give it longer terms of the mortgage, lower interest rate. I didn't succeed in that, and we passed the target. But I think right now, there's two ways to probably help homeowners. For those that are beyond the pale, they cannot make their mortgage payments, or the mortgage is too high, and they've been laid off, you should allow some type of short sale. Short sale means that the bank has to take a hit. The bank has to be willing to allow this property to be sold for less than the mortgage. And if the banks will do that and they take a hit, at the same time the taxpayers have to leave the property in a good condition, and somebody else buys the property for less money, and he or she who buys the property gets that property working again. It does not degrade the neighborhood and does not pull the rest of the houses down. So the idea of short sale as a modus operandi, a way to operate, is a very good way, and I think that's happening across this country. In fact, some of the brokers I talk to are doing more short sales than they are other sales. The other way to do it is get this economy going so that people have jobs. Unemployment is roughly 8.5%. Here in Marion County, I think it's still up to about 11 or 12%. Is it that high still? I think it is. Yeah. And so here in Marion County, I say to the lady that we need to get this economy again. How beautiful it is at Ocala with the rolling hills and the live oaks and the horse farm. It's really extraordinarily delightful place, and you don't have the traffic Orlando. So those are some of my suggestions. Yes, sir, all the way in the back? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I'd like to first make a comment.
Sure. Don't pontificate. Just give me a question, because there's so many people here.
Just a question. I
Okay.
can't even make a short statement.
Okay. Oh, sure. But I'm just, like she spoke a little too long about
Well,
advocacy.
sir, you keep talking about jobs, but you spend so much time going after the president with Solyndra. You spend so much time going after Planned Parenthood and the women of this country.
So much time after Planned Parenthood.
You have spent a lot of time
I wrote them one letter.
with your investigation. Now, my question is, why did you vote no on HR 1022 to honor the Buffalo soldiers? This was a $400,000 allotment to do a study and then to go through the trails and set the trails, and then it would have brought millions of dollars
Okay,
in,
good
in
question.
revenue, and also honor to these men who made it possible for Teddy Roosevelt to go to the top of San Juan Hill.
Good question. This trail you talked about, correct me if I'm wrong, is a trail that runs from San Francisco to, I think, to North or South Dakota. So it was like a huge, long trail. And the study was saying, what are we going to have to do to get public domain of the property so we can get the trail? So the first question you have to say, we're in a deficit mode, we've got $1.5 trillion. Do we want the federal government going out and buying land to develop this long trail as much as 200 miles?
Just in California, sir.
Okay, it's 200 miles though.
Yeah, but just in California.
Oh, okay. So the federal government has to go out and buy land. Now, separated from the emotional side of this issue, let's just think in terms of taxpayers. We're in a deficit. Do we want to spend taxpayers' money to go up to Joe Doe and say, we're going to, by public domain, take your property so that we can have a trail so people can walk on to honor this group?
In public parks.
And I would
sir,
say-
public parks.
Okay, do we have many
The
public
trail
parks?
goes with public parks.
Do you know how many public parks we have here in Marion County? Do you want to have another public park? Do you think it's absolutely necessary with this deficit to have another public park? Do you honestly, in your heart of hearts, think that we should have another public park and spend taxpayers' money?
It's
Do you
already
actually
in a
believe
public
that?
Park. It was just a question of putting the trail through, signage, etc.
The study costs $400,000. The results of the study are going to be that we've got to spend money to get public park over. We've got to get a walkway that goes for 200 miles. And how many people are going to walk that 200 miles? Are you going to walk 200 miles every day? Are you going to make it worthwhile? I doubt if you probably work more than 10 miles a day or 1 mile a day. And I'm not attacking you personally. I'm just saying, at some point, you've got to say no. You've got to say, damn it, we're spending too much money here. And even if it's a nickel dime, you've got to say no. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Mr. Stearns, it's apparent that this administration is performing a lot of unconstitutional actions. You know, you just mentioned Solyndra, you mentioned, you know, the failing to pass the budget. There's a lot of instances, I'm not going to go into them all. But our Department of Justice is supposed to be upholding our laws, and it appears that Mr. Holder is his own man. He doesn't seem to be responsible to answering to anybody except our president, and he's failing to follow the rules of the Constitution. We've got so many actions that he's performing now. He's suing the states for trying to enforce immigration law. He's suing states for trying to enforce fairness in our voting process by instituting voter ID. He's involved in trying to cover up, apparently, the Fast and Furious Fast and Furious investigation. Also, the failure to the Department of Justice to pursue the voter intimidation case that was, you know, presented 2 or 3 years ago. It appears that we have a runaway administration and an attorney general who does not care about the law. Is there anything that Congress, the Senate, can do about impeaching Mr. Holder?
Well, this is, in the bottom line, this is what elections are about. I mean, if the American people all feel like you, then they should elect a new president.
That's my problem. The voter action, voter ID laws that are trying to be implemented to ensure fair elections are not being enforced, and the states are being punished to try to enforce them.
Regardless of what party or what your persuasion is, when South Carolina instituted a law to say, if you intend to vote in South Carolina, you have to have a picture ID, you would think, you know, that'd be a reasonable request.
No.
The administration sued and said it was illegal to have a picture ID.
That's right.
If you're going to vote.
It should
This
be
is what she's
illegal.
talking about. And so the people were saying it's unconstitutional, it's unfair to ask for a picture ID. But you know, when I go to the airport,
It's
every
called
week,
Jim Crow
and
electronic.
they take my boarding pass. You know what else they want from me? A picture ID to see what I look like, to make sure. So I think
Not everyone can afford that.
not
A
everybody
lot,
can
the
afford a picture
elderly,
ID.
the poor,
Offering them free.
a lot of people can't afford a car, let alone.
Okay,
they shouldn't
well,
vote.
They shouldn't vote if they can't have a car, right, dude?
That's right.
You're crazy.
Here's I don't know if this question's going to come up, but you saw that basically the administration recently issued a contraceptive coverage mandate. And religious institutions are exempt from that, but religious affiliated organizations, charities and universities and schools are not exempt from this requirement. So what he was saying is they must offer the morning after pill and all these contraceptives to their people. And these organizations, including the Pope, complained about it because they said it was an egregious mandate and they felt it was unfair and they want to turn it over. So he finally compromised, the administration did, by saying we're going to mandate that insurance companies must offer to these schools, universities, and charities that are all religiously affiliated. Now I'm on a bill, H.R. 1179, which overturns what the administration's doing. But unless, if you felt like I did, you felt what he did was wrong, then you'd have to pass this bill I'm on, and that means that it had to get to the Senate. So this all comes down to who's in control of the executive branch. And obviously there's a lot of people in here that agree with the president because he got enough to get elected. So the next election is going to decide some of that. Yes, ma'am.
It's really interesting to be here and see all the passion, and I really appreciate you coming. I was just interested by what you said just then, and so I'm wondering, so let's say that women in these organizations, that insurance doesn't cover birth control for them, and that that's, you know, that religious organizations or affiliated organizations don't have to cover birth control. What should those women do? What would be your idea?
Well,
Having been to the
couldn't they use their own money to buy it?
So for
What if they don't have money?
We're asking the federal government to mandate private organizations to give this to women. And
So if I happen to work for a religious affiliated organization,
right.
it's, you think that
Insurance companies
it's okay.
mandate that they offer
So
it.
it's okay that I don't get birth control?
Well, I think the morning after pill is what a lot of people are concerned about.
Birth control. Contraception.
Okay, but in the end, you can go out and buy birth control at the drugstore, is that correct?
With a prescription.
Can you buy birth controls at a drugstore?
I have to have a prescription, sir.
Yeah, I know, but you,
I have to have a prescription.
okay, but can you get a morning after pill? The point is that you can get a prescription and buy it yourself.
Yes, and if I have.
What's wrong with you buying
then
it yourself?
It's $50 without my insurance. With my insurance, it's $7.
Well, I think it's become,
That seems like an onerous amount of money
For
for
you
a
to
poor
pay-
woman.
for you to pay for your,
Me, I can afford it, but a lot of women can't afford it.
A lot of women can't afford it.
Entitlement, they're wanting money from people.
well, I think,
So you'd rather me have children that you than have paid for. You than have having to pay for.
all right.
Do you want health care only for the rich?
I think you're doing well. Let's come over here. Yes, sir. We've been on this side, let's come over here. and get-
Health care for the rich only, right?
You're an honorable man, and most of the congressmen are. But I'm telling you guys are not fulfilling your oath to the Constitution for the American people. You don't back us up.
How do we not back you up? What's your perception?
My perception is this guy sitting in the office up there,
Okay.
just like the DREAM Act, he used an executive order. It was voted down 2 times. And the majority of the American people has stood up against it, and this jerk, I mean.
So
this
what
guy
you're
is
saying
something
is,
else.
you want Congress
He
to-
takes an executive order, which he has the privilege of, and puts it into fair play, and
No,
tells his people out there not to arrest the
The bottom
illegal.
line for
Bush.
you is you feel Congress should impeach the president. Isn't that what you're saying?
Good idea. I think we should impeach him. Damn right.
Okay. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Where's your outrage on
You were
Bush?
talking about the houses, the problem, I have a house next to me that the people abandon it because
Yeah.
FEMA.
That's wrong, because that brings your value down.
Yeah, but FEMA came, the reason they left it was because FEMA came and declared all the area a flood zone, which is not.
What?
A flood
zone.
zone.
Flood zone.
I have here papers that I had to pay for it, and I don't have money for my heart and for my blood pressure because I had to spend it on this to make my house taken out of the flood zone. And I cannot find FEMA on any place to get them a call or to write them a letter. They are faceless. They are very, very
Unresponsive.
irresponsive. And
Okay,
they,
now I think we can help you. FEMA will answer my call.